Hello vinyl community and everyone else watching this. I'm back with another video. Hope everybody out there is doing well, surviving, all of that kind of stuff. This video is going to be a little different. I've been rolling around with a few concepts in my head for quite a while, and I thought I'd try to do a series. It may work, it may not. I don't know. I've got no notes. This is all off the cuff, and it's just going to be a talk. And it's going to be about a theory. I like to come up with theories on things. Sometimes they're going to be what ifs, and sometimes they're just theories based on a lot of fact, and sometimes not that much fact, but just presenting an idea. Many people will disagree with my theories. That's fine, and some people will learn some things that they didn't know, and some people will agree with them. But that's what this series is going to be all about. Just me rattling off on a certain theory. And this theory is the origin of the box set. We just had the Beatles' Let It Be. We've had Beatle box sets out, the Yin Yang this year. And not just the Beatles, everybody from Ozzy Osbourne to who else has put out big box sets? Crosby, Stills, and Nash. You name it. There's box sets everywhere. We're inundated with box sets. Now, where did these come from? I mean, in the last few years, it's been massive, but it didn't just develop in the last few years. In fact, you know, the idea of a box set, I'm going to give you the history of it, but then tell you what really changed the concept. So, let's go into a little history first, and then I'll get to the game changer. And the game changer happened a lot earlier than most people think. So, where did the box set come from? Well, the first box sets were called albums, and that's where we get the name album. An artist would put out a few 78s. They would put them in a box or a book. The box, this isn't really one, this is a school thing, but the box might look something like this, and you'd open it up and there would be a whole bunch of 78s in there, sometimes in a sleeve, sometimes not, in a box. And it was called an album because before the box, it actually came in a book. Well, hang on. Here's a 45 one, but here's a book. And the book reminded people of a scrapbook. And what did people call scrapbooks back in the day? They called them photo albums. Album. So the name album comes from this. Started out in 78s, continued on to 45s, but here's where the name album comes from. And then they started putting them in boxes. And when they put them in boxes, these were called albums. And that's the way it was. All through the 40s and the 50s, albums. And then, I don't know exactly when, in the early to mid 60s, somebody got the idea to start doing mostly compilations, but sometimes they were full artist, one single artist things, sold mostly through mail order on television, but you take a bunch of hits on one label or however you can license them, you put them in a box, something like this, you sell it on TV for $7.98 or $8.98, which was a lot of money back then. And you open it up and there's 3 or 4 records in there. And they started out just like this. There's 5 records in this one. It's just a various artist collection of one type of music. This one put out by Columbia House. A lot of the record companies had their own mail order marketing services. And other companies like, well, eventually K-Tel and Ronco, but there was like Candlelight Music and Silhouette and Reader's Digest. all of these companies started forming around that time in the early to mid 60s. And they started putting out these Reader Digest and Candlelight Music box sets. Mostly various artists, a lot of classical. Once in a while you get somebody like Sinatra or Nat King Cole or Dean Martin or somebody like that, and they would put them out, and the housewives, the idea was that the housewives sitting at home watching television would go, oh, that would sound really nice on my console stereo with the 4 lamps on it I have to take off every time I want to play a record. And they would buy it. And that went along swimmingly for quite a while. And these companies made a bit of money. I mean, nothing exploded. Nothing was huge. Dollars were made. Everybody benefited. The companies that they licensed the music from benefited. The people that made and sold the box sets benefited. The artists probably benefited the least, but that's always the case. And this went on and on and on. And then about 1969, this guy invented, I forgot his name. I knew his name. Ron Popeil had a mail order company. We were selling stuff on television, and he put out a record called Do It Now. I wish I had a copy sitting in front of me. I forgot to grab one. But he put out this Do It Now record and said that some of the funds were going for charity, and they probably were about 1 or 2%, which is all you have to give to charity to say it's a charitable record. And the Beatles were on it. Nowhere Man. The Who was on it. Janis Joplin, Hendrix. There's a lot of good people on this record. It sounded like crap, and it wasn't licensed, and nobody from any of these record companies got a nickel. And but Ron Popeil made some money, and eventually, of course, it got shut down, and that was that. But it sold a lot of copies, and people from K-Tel saw that, and that's sort of where K-Tel comes from. You know, but they actually did it legally and licensed, and so did Ronco after that. Ronco's like, hey, this works, and that's where all these in the 70s, you know, JJ, you know, 22 explosive hits, all of that kind of stuff came directly from this Do It Now album that was put out by Ronco in '69. Now, what does this have to do with box sets? Well, there was an entrepreneur or two, I'm not sure exactly how many people were involved in this, paid attention to the Reader's Digest and Silhouette Music and Candlelight Music box sets that they sold, and they always saw commercials, and paid strict attention to this Ronco thing, which clearly wasn't sanctioned, but did really, really well. Well, these guys got an idea. A little more back history before I get to it. But as far as artists, musicians, rock and roll people's back catalogs went, not much was ever done. You know, a band broke up and that was it. You know, if they were still together, maybe a greatest hits album would come out. And if they weren't together, maybe you'd cobble together a greatest hits record, put it out there as soon as they were done, and that was it. Like the Beatles' swan song was Hey Jude, and then that was it. You know, Capital Parlophone, nobody's paying attention to the Beatles. Nobody was paying attention to any of the defunct bands once the 70s hit. It just, they didn't consider their back catalog. It's kind of like film and everything else. You just let it go. It's disposable merchandise. It's there, it's gone, it's over. We move on, we make money on the new thing. That was the thought process. Up until about 1972, when these entrepreneur or two or three or however many people were involved, I don't know if anybody knows who was involved, got an idea. And their idea was to put out a 4-record set, box set, and sell it on TV and on radio and in magazine ads and newspaper ads and anywhere else they could. So they did. And they put it together, and it was called The Beatles. A lot of people called it Ann, but it's called Alpha to Omega. This is the first rock and roll box set. This is Genesis. There's a whole lot of songs on it. There's 4 records. They're on this really weird pink label. And they put this thing out there. And it sold. It sold enough that if it was a legitimate album, it would have charted. It would have hit the Billboard's top 200 easily. Maybe even been in the Billboard's Hot 100 in America. And it sold in other countries as well. Well, what happened after this? Well, people were taking notice, clearly, including these guys who promptly came up with Volume 2 of the Beatles' Alpha to Omega. Same thing, different cover. A few solo tracks on these two, by the way. Same thing, same labels even. I'm not even going to bother to show you a label. Same thing, they came out with Volume 2. Volume 2 didn't do as well as Volume 1, but it still did extremely well. And notice there's a dark one and a pinkish reddish one. Well, again, the good folks at Capitol and Parlophone and EMI were taking notice of this because there's somebody out there making a whole lot of money off of Beatles right now, and it's not them. So, what do? They say, hey, we should do this ourselves and curtail this. So, out comes the Beatles, 62 to 66 and 67 to 70. The red and the blue albums. I'm not going to get them out. You guys all know what they look like. They are a direct spawn from that. From the Beatles' Alpha to Omega. And those albums stayed on the charts in the top 200 for at least 3 years. 2 to 3 years at least. Top 200 consistently for that long. Those things sold millions and millions of copies. Well, what happens after that? Other people take notice. Of course they do. And other artists start to have greatest hits compilations. And the ball has started to roll. And it's all because of that. So then a couple years later, Capitol puts out rock and roll music. Year after that, Beatles at the Hollywood Bowl. Year after that, Love Songs. A couple years after that, Rarities. Next year, Beatles 20 Greatest Hits. Next year, Real Music. The Beatles were dead. Nothing else was ever going to come out by the Beatles. They were done. People, again, executives did not look at back catalogs like that then. And then, once you hit the 80s and CDs come along, and cassettes too, for in a lesser way, the record company started realizing that they'll buy songs again. So the first box sets were on CD you could get 4 Paul McCartney albums in one box. That was a box set. And then Dylan came out with a box set in Clapton Crossroads and Dylan Bootleg Series Volume 1. Was that it? I can't remember. But anyway, Dylan and Clapton were first, along with this McCartney, 4 CDs in one box. And that kicked off the CD box set. And those things sold as well. And then it's been escalating ever since, to the point where now CDs are just in box sets, period, CD, LP, it doesn't matter, have just gotten to the point where it's almost out of control. And once again, this is my theory, that it all starts with this. This is Genesis. And again, it's important because it's not important because really of what it sold. It's important because of the awareness that it put in executives' heads of the potential of back catalogs that had never really been explored before. And that is Genesis. That is the very first rock and roll box set. And it all spawns from there. So everybody that's, Jesus, let it be, 5-box thing, I can't afford this thing, I can't afford this, can't afford this 6-disc white album, I can't afford, it all goes back to the Beatles, Alpha to Omega. That's my theory, that's my story. I hope you like this video. Like and subscribe. I never say that, but you know, do it if you want to. Check out my podcast, snapcracklepop.podomatic.com. Let me know in the comments if you agree, if you disagree, if you want to hear more of my theories. I have a lot of them. This one is less of a theory. Isn't that much of a theory though. This is pretty much what happened. Let me know. Let me know what you think. And I've enjoyed talking to you at any rate. And that's it. That is the origin of the box set. So blame these bootleggers on it. Alright, everybody take care. And I'll catch you next time with something else. And I'll do another theory video soon. Bye.